I welcome in on a snowy Tuesday, and they say Friday it's really going to accumulate. It's just a little flurry right now. I just got distracted. We were talking. Somebody left Ricky's cookies here.
John.
So that's old then, if John brought them in.
I think they're from Friday.
Oh, my goodness. Well, I was just telling Greg Gaston, you know what challah is? I'm going to educate you here.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with it.
It's a type of bread. Okay. Ricky's makes a cinnamon swirl challah that may be the best bread in the history of mankind.
Really?
Yes. Nobody, she's so busy that people do know about her, but if everybody knew, she'd be like swamped.
Wow.
Her food is so good. Anyway,
yeah,
free commercial, Ricky. And Ricky's probably not listening, but if you know somebody that knows her, tell her, because we love her. All right. Last night, the Grizz, the theme for the last few years stays intact. There's no Ja. There's no Bain. There's no Marcus Smart. There's no Santi Aldama, and I was going to nominate Santi to be the most improved player of the year. None of those guys there, but you know who was at FedEx Forum last night? Jaren Jackson Jr. That's who was there. And he had 35 points, 13 rebounds, 5 assists, 3 steals, 1 block. Good man-to-man defense. There was a good point made by one of the writers. I can't remember if I read it in the CA or the DM. But one of them made the point, when he was Defensive Player of the Year, you could make the argument he was just a great shot blocker. He would go out of his way to block shots. He was maybe not the best man-to-man, but he was a very good rim protector. He is now a better, maybe all-around defensive player. He showed that last night. It was just sensational. And you got Pippen, 18 and 4 assists. It looked pretty good. 119, 104. So now the Grizz are 24 and 13. They're tied with Houston for second in the West. They're actually third by percentage points, but they're both 11 games over 500. I believe the Grizzlies have played 2 more games than the Houston Rockets. This will be fun when they get everybody back. This will be fun if they ever get G.G. Jackson and Vince Williams back. What's going to happen? Who's going to be on the bench? Because, I hate to say it, but guys like LaRavia and Conchar have really played good for you in the offing. But that's what depth's supposed to be all about. So this is kind of fun. Speaking of depth, what are the Tigers going to do? You saw that they moved up. They are now 19 in the AP. They are 20 in the coaches. That's up from 25. So they did move up quite a bit there. They only moved up 1 slot in the AP poll. And I don't blame the slow acceleration upward, because honestly, they could have lost the Florida Atlantic game, the North Texas game. North Texas, by the way, is a much better team than Florida Atlantic. I think we'll see that as it will bear out. But as I think I mentioned yesterday, the thing about North Texas is they play together as a team, because I'm not sure there's anybody on that roster that would start in place of any Memphis starter. And on the road, they gave the Tigers one heck of a scare. So I understand the reluctance of the pollsters to move the Tigers up big. But you know what's going to happen? They're going to end up moving up slightly, unless they falter. They're going to move up because of attrition. The SEC is going to beat the heck out of each other. I don't think there's any doubt about that. And so those losses will end up vacating spots that Memphis will eventually, get a hold of. I think there's one. I'm going to double check here real quick. I think there's one really good basketball. Oh, Auburn's at Texas today. Kentucky is at Georgia. Here's the one. Tennessee has to go to Florida.
How about that? Florida coming off their first loss.
Coming off their first loss, but guess who's favored?
I'm guessing Florida at home.
Florida by 3.5.
Wow.
Yeah. There's some really good games Mississippi State's at Vandy, but Mississippi State is the favorite in that game in the SEC. So that'll be a lot of fun to watch. Of course, the Tigers do not play until Saturday. Wouldn't you know it, there'll probably be no one come because the snow had fallen the day before.
That's right.
Like, seriously, the last 2 home games that Memphis had, it was raining both times.
That's true, yeah.
And I do think that kept the actual crowd. I think they announced 10,000 plus distributed. I would say there were about 6,000 in the ballpark. That would be my guess.
Dave, can I ask you something? Because I know we have a lot of guests today. I want to be able to get this in because I just saw it on my computer.
Yes.
Will you be watching any of the TGL tonight?
I don't know that I fully understand it. Does that stand for Tiger Golf League?
You know what? On this show, it will. It'll stand for Tiger Golf League.
What is the technical name? It's Golf League, I know.
I think it might just be the Golf League. I don't know what the T really stands for. I know GL stands for Golf League.
So let me try to understand this concept because my wife was asking me, and then she read it to me, and so I'm not sure I truly understand it.
I don't know if I'm the best person to ask about it, but I'll try.
Here's what I think. They built this like mini dome.
Yes.
And I want to say it's, I'm probably making this up, but like 125 yards long.
Okay, yeah, somewhere around there, sure.
So there's this gigantic simulator.
Tomorrow's Golf League. I like the Golf League better, or Tiger's Golf League better.
So there's this gigantic 65-foot high simulator that you hit into, at least your first shot.
That's right.
Right? And then I guess when you play your shot to the green, like on a par 3 or whatever your approach shot is, you then, I guess they put the ball down where the computer says it would be.
That's right. They have it lights up and you like place it there.
And then you actually hit a ball to a green actually putt on a green.
That's right. Got it.
It's in Orlando, right?
I don't know exactly where the places. It might be Orlando.
I think it's very close to wherever Tiger lives.
Yeah. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised at all.
I guess my next question on that is it outdoor or is it indoor?
No, it's all indoor.
It is indoor.
All indoor.
So how are they going to make those greens? You know, this is like this is the problem they had and why they invented AstroTurf when they opened up the Astrodome, right? Because grass really wouldn't grow. How are they going to do that with the green?
Great question. So the green is artificial.
Oh, it is artificial.
The green, I believe, is artificial. Everything else, in terms of like when you drive, if it's a par 5 or like a par 4, like a longer hole, then they have places where you can put for your secondary shot that is also grass, and they have like bunkers and different stuff like that. The green, though, it can move. It can completely 360, and it can, like, under it has things where it can change. So
it can change the undulation of the green?
Exactly. And so that's how they're going to make it from hole to hole change. So that's not the exact same green every single time.
Man, that is cool.
It's very tech savvy.
I'll watch it.
Yeah, I'm going to be locked in tonight.
I'll watch it.
I might not watch it after tonight, depending on how it goes.
I wonder if we'll get any overnights that Joe Dank can get for us. Because Joe Dank, Dennis Philippi,
right. Feels like we haven't talked to him forever.
And Munzie, they're all back tomorrow. We haven't talked to them in a month because of the holidays being on a Wednesday. We will talk a final time, putting a bow on the bowl season, get his thoughts on the playoffs too. Steve Earhart will make his final appearance of the year. Really, I shouldn't say of the year now because it's 2025. How many times have you written the new year and not done 25?
It's been tough.
I will tell you, yesterday, I always do a show list, you see, and I always write the date on it. So yesterday I wrote 1/6/24, realizing, wait, it's 25 when I did it today. So anyway, Steve Earhart, we'll wrap it up. Jeff Moore will talk NFL. We got things to talk about. And then the Tennessee Titans have the number 1 pick in this year's NFL draft. Which way will they go? Who will they take? Will it be a quarterback? Is there a dynamite lineman somewhere or a defensive line pass rusher? Can they find one of those?
And they've got to find a new general manager.
Fired today?
Fired today. 30 minutes ago, Rand Carthon is out as the Titans general manager. Adam Schefter reporting.
Wow.
So a lot to talk about with Mike Keith.
Wow. I was going to start with the first pick, but interesting. I don't know how much Mike can say on this stuff. Remember, this does get political.
That's right.
We're not going to put Mike Keith's job in jeopardy,
No.
I promise you that. But, yeah, wow. That's just breaking.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Well, so usually it's called Blue Monday. Today it's Terrible Tuesday for the Tennessee Titans GM. In the meantime, I know it's a good Tuesday for our Big Cheese head honcho of the AutoZone Liberty Bowl. That is Steve Earhart making his final appearance for this bowl season. Have you got a favorite in the playoffs, by the way? I meant to ask you that earlier. Is it Notre Dame, Penn State, Ohio State, or Texas? Who's going to be the champion?
Well, I think you may recall, and you probably got the tapes from your show weeks ago when there were still a lot of teams involved. I picked Ohio State. So if you'll check your tapes, I'm still sticking with Ohio State.
I will check those because I've known you to forget things conveniently.
Well, I'm on board there. And remember, I also said that for those gamblers out there, that first weekend, I said, well, do a parlay, take all the home teams, all four of them, and you make 12-1 there. So that came through. But anyway, no, we're finishing up a great bowl season, and with all the complaining and all the stuff about portals and opt-outs, this is maybe the most successful bowl season in the history of college football. So
what makes you say that? The playoffs, well, I don't know. We're going to get into the college football playoff ratings tomorrow with Joe Dank. I believe your ratings were pretty good. You'll let us know in a minute. But what makes you say, with all the opt-outs, and I had a guy yesterday, John Thompson, who's a football coach, who thinks the quality of the bowl games is not what it used to be because of all the opt-outs. What makes you say this is the greatest bowl season ever?
Because the nation has adopted college football in the last few years. It is clearly and unequivocally number 2 to the NFL in all of sports. College football and in their ratings, and that's generally how you measure it, are people interested in watching on TV and going to the stadiums. But generally the TV ratings for the college bowl season are dwarfing all the college ratings before. And you'll see that the ratings, not just for our AutoZone Liberty Bowl, but so many of the bowls outside of the playoffs are at record highs. Our rating, which is it okay for me to go ahead and say that?
Please,
we're so proud of that. The AutoZone Liberty Bowl, we had an average over the 3.5-hour telecast of 4.2 million viewers.
Wow, that's pretty good.
And then we peaked at 4.8 million viewers. It's the highest AutoZone Liberty Bowl rating since 2015, and many of the other bowls had the same kind of success. And so that's why I say that there's been success. People are interested, people are watching, and bowl games across the board are just doing very well. There's some, 30 some non-CF ESPN bowls. And we are, I think right now there's a few that are still coming in from last week, but we beat 27 other bowl games. And, of course, we're in a high competition with our buddies over in Nashville bowl game, but they peaked out at 2.8 million viewers. So we were at 4.8, so we crushed Nashville. It's not very often that we here in Memphis can say we outpointed the Nashville Bowl, but we were ahead of so many other ESPN bowl games. And again, remember, Arkansas was criticized saying, well, maybe some of their players had opted out. But the truth is that some of those players that were relegated to being backups had a chance to shine. That's my main point. I think, yes, there's some wrong things that need to be corrected about the portal and so on. But college football is an embodiment of not just a few star players that are, quote, opting out to go into the NFL. But, when we welcome to here over 100 young student athletes from each university, and they're all good players. They were all recruited to play. And so when those backups get a chance to play and shine, look at the receiver from Arkansas, the super fast track guy who had never had a chance to play. First pass he ever catches, he goes 90 yards for that thrilling touchdown. So my point is that there's a lot of interest in, college football. But as Roy Kramer, the old commissioner of the SEC, said, that the people are going because of the name on the front of the jerseys, not on the back of the jerseys. So Arkansas, and Texas Tech had a great following there. People were saying, "Oh, the play isn't as good," but that's saying that, okay, maybe there's 2 or 3 players that didn't play, but then there's a whole plethora of guys that stepped in, and so that's my point there, that the ratings prove it, and look at the college playoffs. How many of those quarterbacks are players that transferred and quote moved on through the portal? I mean, Notre Dame's quarterback, Arizona State's quarterback, Oregon's quarterback, Texas quarterback. All these guys, got a chance to play. They transferred some reasons to get a better opportunity, but some to get a chance to play. Look at the University of Memphis. They're counting on a player that's transferring in from Nevada. He wants to have a chance to play here. And so I think that everybody talking about the sky is falling or a little out of line. Yes, the adults made some bad decisions on when to put the timing of the portal and so on. But the game is strong, the bowl system is strong, and we're going to be strong going forward. And as I say, we're thrilled, and thanks to all our sponsors, thanks to AutoZone, our key title sponsor, and all our presenting sponsors, and the folks that came out to the game, and people around the country that watched the game to have that great rating. Quite frankly, we were excited, and everybody here in the AutoZone Liberty Bowl, and we want to, as this you said, our last time here on your show, but main thing is to thank everybody in Memphis who worked together to put on a great show in 66 straight years. The highest rated telecast originating from Memphis all year long. And again, we don't want to, be getting into competition, but way higher than any basketball games, either pro or college, and way higher than golf tournaments. So it's a chance for us to, showcase Memphis to the rest of the country.
What was the game in 15 that beat out 4.8 million?
I believe that was Kansas State and Arkansas back then. I have to double check that, but that's, in fact, we heard that from ESPN. They put out a press release saying, AutoZone Liberty Bowl highest telecast, and they put that out about several other bowl games. That's why I say that all the fear and the sky is falling. Our friends down in the Outback Bowl, their highest telecast since 2013. The Alamo Bowl had their highest telecast almost ever. Of course, they had the luck of having a primetime Dion down there. But that's why I say that, people are still very interested in college football. And I think here in the University of Memphis is doing a great job, and they're bringing in some new players that is that a big problem that they're bringing in players? No, it's a good thing that Coach Ryan is, bringing in some players that want to have an opportunity to play here at the University of Memphis. So that's why I take a little bit of umbrage that people are saying, well, the sky is falling. And if there is some adjustments to be made on changing the date of the portal, that can be done, and I think the game will remain strong.
So do you think that will be done? Because you've got to take into account, which I don't hear many people saying, but the accommodations do, is that you've got times with classes starting and being off, and when you start that portal, should there be just one portal entry time in spring after spring when it's established who's going to be what? I think they've got some tough decisions to make. And, you got a federal judge that's looking in the players' behalf. This is all in the players' behalf, this stuff. So I don't know if this all is going to get changed.
Well, you make some great points, David, and I'm not sure that college football has the best governance, between the NCAA, or do they sort of run college football, but really do the conference commissioners, and then you've got to have unanimous consent, so to speak, among the 10 conferences plus Notre Dame on certain of those kind of issues. So, nobody can trust the rules that sometimes the adults make. But again, let's not blame the players and say, well, this is a bad deal because the players are moving around. I mean, coaches have been moving around since the beginning of time, and so now the players are moving around. But I think it's only strengthened the game. I mean, look at Notre Dame. I mean, that young quarterback that transferred from Duke, remember, he said, wow, this guy's a good player at Duke, and so he wants the opportunity to play at the highest level. He transfers there, and now Notre Dame's in the finals. So I think it's a great opportunity for players. And the main thing, too, is we get hung up sometimes about just the top 2 or 3 players on each team and saying, well, they're opting out. But let them opt out. Let them go play in the NFL. But there's another 97 players that, that's their opportunity to shine.
All right, last thing. There is an opportunity, I think, if it doesn't happen this year, it'll happen the year after in 26 when the TV deals are up after 25, that they could expand the playoffs to 16, 14. I've heard both models. I think it would be 16 would be better, and don't give buys. My hope is that they would do away with home field advantages because we saw what a disadvantage that is to competition. I don't know what will happen. Do you think they would use the Bowls, take away home field advantage, and Memphis being the AutoZone Liberty Bowl being the 7th oldest bowl in history, would that have a chance? Or is the size of the stadium, the age of the stadium, even when it's redone, is that going to hurt Memphis's chances to be a host of one of those first-round games?
Well, we're always going to be competitive, but I think the size, you hit it on the head. There's no question that in the past they've said to be qualify, you had to have a stadium at least 65,000, and I certainly hope that we get the stadium back to 50,000, which I think you've been very adamant on your show calling to say let's make sure that the university, phase 3, what they call it, was to get the stadium back to 50,000. We started at 63,000 and then moved down to 57, and then this year was certainly cut back during the construction period of time. But I think that's key, and I'm continuing to press for the university to move as fast as they can to make a position statement to the Big 12. And the Texas Tech people that were here were certainly impressed with what we've done here with the AutoZone Liberty Bowl, and I think there's some potential opportunity here for the university to make a move into what we'd call the Power 4, because that's the configuration that's going to run college football, no question about it. So, we certainly are going to be competitive with a great partner with AutoZone and our presenting sponsors. We're going to be able to be competitive with the Bowls, but I don't know that we're going to be able to have the size of stadium to compete for, a playoff position. But there's still plenty of room for, just as we talked earlier about the great ratings. I mean, and the experience that you have and the great, great turnouts at so many of these bowl games, the non-playoff games, as I say, when we can draw the highest rated telecast originating from Memphis, Tennessee all year long, it's important for cities like Memphis. So we want to be competitive, but I don't want to, BS anybody that we're going to be able to get a playoff game with the size of our stadium.
All right. Well, 4.8 million reasons why to at least keep the thing going. As always, I appreciate you coming on every week and answering sometimes my tough questions, and we'll do this again next year.
Well, we certainly appreciate, Dave, what you do for the community, and I think all your listeners out there, you've been, a great supporter of all things Memphis, including the Memphis Tigers, as well as other sports and activities here. We need to keep these traditions and, the good things about Memphis. We always want to stress that, and, we have enough naysayers here, but, what a wonderful institution we have, and you're certainly one of the recognized voices bringing forward the good things about Memphis.
You're too
Thank
kind.
you, David.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. We'll see you soon. That is our big cheese head honcho. That is Steve Earhart from the AutoZone Liberty Bowl. We take a break. When we come back, Jeff Moore in studio on the National Football League, and there is breaking news today. You could say good news, bad news, maybe. Good news is, if you like him, Brian Callahan is staying in Nashville. But Rand Carthen, their GM, is out. We'll talk with Jeff Moore about that and a lot of other topics, including the playoffs. The field, obviously, is set. We talk about that in just a moment.
We are real sports talk. Sports 56 WHBQ. Available on your radio dial at 560 AM and 98.5 FM, as well as around the world online at sports56whbq.com. Take us with you everywhere by downloading the Sports 56 app. And at home, just say, Alexa, play Sports
2025 Range Rover Sport sits right at the heart of the Land Rover lineup, offering a perfect mix of style, performance, and versatility. Smaller and more agile than a full-size Range Rover, it's a great option for everyone who wants luxury and practicality. Every model comes with 8-speed automatic transmission and all-wheel drive standard. Whether you navigate city streets or tackle rough terrain, Range Rover Sport has you covered. Every drive is powerful and breathtaking. The 2025 Range Rover Sport is the epitome of sporty luxury. Test drive one at Jaguar Land Rover Bluff City.
Welcome back in the Family Leisure Studios, where the floor model sale is still going on. That's at I-40 and Wooden Road. All the 2024 inventory really has to go. We're here in 25. You got to help them make room for all those new models. You can get up to 50% off on these floor models, including cold plunge tubs. They started under $5,000. Now the hot tubs, you can get up to $3,000 off with free steps and with all the chemicals. All you got to do is get to I-40 and Wooden Road. Go in there. You'll love it. It looks so good. They're all actually redoing a whole other section. It's always on top of their game, that place. I promise you. That is Family Leisure in the floor model sale. Big savings happening right now. Big happenings in the NFL this morning. The news comes out. The family the Adams family, it's not the lady's name anymore. She's married, but it is Adams' original.
Yeah.
They've made a decision. They're keeping their head coach, Brian Callahan. He's only been there 1 year.
Yeah.
But they are firing Rand Carthen, their general manager, which is significant, Jeff Moore, because they got the first pick in the draft.
Wow. That's going to make that an interesting job that is probably a two-edged sword. A lot of pressure to make the right decision, and then going into a new organization like that, it's going to be a challenge to kind of put all the pieces together. A lot of times the GMs kind of likes them to have some influence on who the head coach is and vice versa, but they've got a lot of building to do with the Titans, so that'll be interesting to watch.
A lot of teams with a lot of building to do. Mine, for sure, the Chicago Bears, they're still looking for a coach. Yesterday, they call it Blue Monday. So we saw earlier Dennis Allen, Matt Eberflus, Robert Saleh, all three of those coaches fired in season. Those jobs are still available. And then 1 year, Jared Mayo, New England, got fired by the Kraft family yesterday. He He said, I feel terrible about it, but some of it was fan influence. It's very weird to me.
It is
I got a
weird.
feeling Mike Vrabel is going to end up getting that job. And I think most people think Mike Vrabel's a heck of a coach.
Yeah.
And then Doug Peterson, I'm not surprised. 3 years, it never worked for him in Jacksonville.
Yeah.
He is out. Any thoughts on all these firings?
I'm with you. The New England firing is a little bit weird because it seemed like they were trying to make Gerard Mayo the heir apparent to Belichick. And I don't know that he made a lot of changes when he took over. He was kind of playing with the same team that he was given. But, you know, I'm one of those, Dave. I just don't believe every guy that's a great defensive coordinator, offensive coordinator is a great head coach. And I wasn't impressed with him as a head coach. I love him. I love him as a player and as a defensive coordinator and a linebacker coach. But that's a different job. I mean, it's not so much the X's and O's on the fields. You got to be able to work with the PR, with the press. You got to be able to be the face of the franchise. This is a lot of things that go into it beyond just X's and O's, and everybody can't do that job.
Do you think, though, you can tell in 1 year? I think you pretty much made up your mind on Gerard Mayo.
Yeah.
I kind of go with Bill Belichick here. I think the guy deserved 1 more year, unless, and he doesn't want to say this. Robert Half goes, I absolutely know. I made the wrong pick.
Yeah, and there are things off the field that would indicate that, and that's what I'm reading between the lines. Is it not so much what he did on the field, which of course they didn't have a great record and were actually in a position to get the first pick themselves for a while. I think it's the things. It's how he handled himself and that organization off the field that I think is what led to it.
He's got a quarterback there, Drake May, so I think he'll get some interest. I think it's going to be Vrabel anyway. So
yeah,
and maybe that was part of it, was that he wanted to make sure he got Vrabel before Vrabel would not be available. There's talk about Mike McCarthy. The Bears have asked permission to talk with him. I would be very disappointed as a Bear fan that Mike McCarthy became the head coach when you might be able to lure Ben Johnson, who seems to have interest in the Bears, the Detroit Lions offensive coordinator. Now, you're right about this. I don't think you really know until you're on the job if you're a head coach or if you're a great coordinator.
Yeah, and I'm scratching my head about the Chicago Bears and Mike McCarthy. I mean, what has he done? I mean, what is other than underachieved with the Cowboys? I mean, they're decent during a regular season. They're usually the most penalized team in the league, which to me is an indication of coaching and discipline. I would hope they'd make a better decision than Mike McCarthy. I like the Ben Johnson pick as well if they can get him.
Here's the thing that really kind of worries me. You've asked for permission to talk to Mike McCarthy. So if he says yes, I'll talk to you. Now he's basically out at Dallas, correct?
Yes, he's out.
And what if the Bears go, oh, you know what? We don't want to hire him. We think Ben Johnson, we're just talking to 3 guys. Does that put the onus on the Bears to hire the guy? Because honestly, I think, and if I'm Jerry Jones, I would feel this way. If you go talk to Chicago before I've let you go, then I'm no longer interested in you because you're looking at other places.
Right. But the only reason he would go talk to Chicago is he knew the handwriting was on the wall as far as staying with the Cowboys. So
that's what worries me. Yes, it sounds like the Bears want him, and I don't know why.
I think the Bears may want him, but I think in him agreeing to go talk to him, he knows that he's no longer going to be welcome in Dallas. So that's going to be an interesting thing to see. But I just hope Chicago makes a hard, serious run at Ben Johnson because he could be a great asset to them, especially with Caleb Williams.
Well, I've heard this, and I don't necessarily believe it, honestly, but I've heard people give all the Detroit credit to Ben Johnson. I think Dan Campbell is the heart and soul of that.
No way. Yeah, it's obvious.
All right, surprise of the year for you. I've got one I know for sure. I'll tell you in a second. But if there was a surprise story, team, whatever it may be, what was that in the NFL this year?
Oh, no question for me. It's the Commanders. I mean, nobody saw Jaden Daniels coming out and playing the way he's played. Their offense has been great. We knew that they were getting a defensive-minded head coach. Their defense has played well. They are definitely the biggest surprise for me so far this year.
That's a great one, and I don't necessarily disagree with it, but I'll give you another one. The Los Angeles Chargers, although they've always had a great quarterback, but Justin Herbert became a better player with Jim Harbaugh. There is no doubt that Jim Harbaugh is a great coach. Whether you like him or not, whether he's an ethical guy like in college or not, he motivates teams, and they were 11-6 this year, and I don't think anybody would have seen that coming.
That is no surprise to me. I've always believed he is a fantastic coach. Not only in his organizational skills and the way he deals with things off the field, and of course we know he's had some challenges at Michigan, but he just knows how to get his players to play. And to me, that's really what the essence of being a good head coach is being able to get different personalities, grown men, millionaires, to play their best every week. And he has the knack for doing that. I'm excited to see this team, because I'm a big fan of Justin Herbert, and I just think you get the right guys around him, and he could. I mean, he's set all kinds of records for a quarterback in the first 4 years of his career. He's a great talent. So yeah, I'm not surprised. I'm delighted to see it, and I hope they can keep it going.
Speaking of records, how about Saquon Barkley? In an era where running backs had been devalued until this year, really, Saquon Barkley has a 2,000-yard rushing season. To me, that's a surprise because the Giants gave up on Barkley.
Right. Well, yeah, I mean, I that is a pleasant surprise. I always felt like Saquon could still play, and when he went to that team, I thought it was a great acquisition for the Eagles and a great move for him. So I'm not surprised that he's been as productive as he's been. I'm really disappointed that his teammates, his coach, that organization would not realize that it would not have hurt them to try to get him the record, maybe even just the first half. And again, you mentioned Dan Quinn. There's no way he would have had a guy on it. I mean, they play we football players. We go play every week. You know, no sitting down. It's time for playoff time. You play. And I think they're going to come to regret it. And personally, I'm pulling against them now because they didn't let Saquon get that record. There's no way nobody. He'll never. I don't know that he'll get that chance again.
Oh, I doubt it.
And that's his. And there's against the Giants, he would have had it.
Team. I know it. He would have been magic. I'm with you 100%. And I thought Barkley really handled it well.
He did.
He just
He's
said,
classy.
"Okay,
yeah.
I'll go that way." I have a great deal of respect for Barkley for sure. Last thing on this, and then I want to get into the games. Here.
Okay.
That is Aaron Rodgers. 500th touchdown pass. Only 5 guys in the history of the NFL have ever done that. I think he went out kind of classy, which is the first time I could ever say that about Aaron Rodgers. But I think he's done. What do you think?
I think he's done. I mean, he's just demonstrated that, he's a good talent on the field, still one of the best passers we've ever seen. And the record speaks for itself, but he's just not a leader. He apparently is just not a great teammate in the locker room, and certainly I expected more leadership from him off the field than what we saw. So, no, I don't know that another team could bring him in and he'd make a difference. But I could see teams offering to bring him in because he's just still a great talent.
All right. Chiefs get the bye in the AFC. The Lions surprised everybody by dominating Minnesota.
Wow.
They get the bye in the NFC. It's Buffalo 2-7 against the Denver Broncos and the story of Bo Nix. The Baltimore Ravens and Lamar Jackson, the 3 seed against the Steelers, who kind of faltered down the stretch. Number 6, the Texans and the Chargers. That's the 4 and 5. And we just talked about the L.A. Chargers and Jim Harbaugh. Which of those AFC games do you like the best?
Baltimore, Pittsburgh for me. Although, the Buffalo game will be interesting. I just think Denver is a young team. Bo Nix certainly has had a great year, and it's something for them to build on. But for me, Buffalo at home is formidable, and I don't know that Denver's going to have a chance against them.
And
I don't know that that'll be close.
And how much snow is there going to be? I mean, that's the other thing that you sit there and you go crazy on the snow effect up there, the lake effect in the snow. That could be absolutely crazy in the long run. All right, in the NFC, it's Philadelphia, the 2 seed, against the Green Bay Packers, who are injured. We don't even know about Love. He got hurt by the Bears, an elbow thing. They think he'll be all right. They've lost a couple of defensive players to injuries from that game. Bears, by the way, beat them. I think that snapped like an 11-game losing streak to the Packers. The Buccaneers, I think, a bit of a surprise, and they're the 3 seed against your Commanders. And the Rams and the Vikings, who... That's the crazy thing. They're the 5 seed. They win the game against Detroit. Yeah. They get the bye in the number 1 seed. Lose it. They go all the way to 5 to take on the LA Rams.
Yeah. I guess the biggest surprise for me in this matchup will be, I think Tampa and Washington is intriguing for me. Because I'm loving the way Baker Mayfield has led this team, especially when it gets down to playoff time. They're just a mentally tough team. Mike Evans is unstoppable, I think, as a receiver. And Washington is a young team that really has overachieved this year. I don't know how hungry they are at this point, but I know with Tampa being a veteran team with a veteran coach, I like them in that game. And that's probably the game I think that'll be most interesting to me. Of course, we'll have to see what happens with the Rams in Minnesota. I like Minnesota, the Rams. I think we're very fortunate to be able to get in that position. And then the Eagles.
Packers.
Eagles and the Packers are hurt. And the Eagles, to me, are probably playing the best football outside of Detroit in the NFC right now.
All right, you mentioned Mike Evans, so I'm going to ask you. He, for the 11th straight year, had 1,000+ receiving yards. Which is more incredible to you? Rodgers' 500 touchdown passes or 11 straight seasons with 1,000+ receiving yards?
Oh, no question, 11 straight seasons with 1,000. Receiving yards, because he's had to stay healthy, and he's had some injuries here and there, but he's been consistent. He is one of the greatest receivers that kind of flies under the radar that I've seen in the history of the league.
Last thing, do you think it'll be a Chiefs-Lions Super Bowl, or is somebody in here going to mess that up?
I have a hard time pulling or choosing other than Patrick Mahomes, but I really think Buffalo and Baltimore will win against that team if they have to play them. I just think they're playing better. They play consistently better. Baltimore scares me because they tend to play down in the playoffs, but I think they're the most talented team, and I think Buffalo is probably playing better, more consistently. I don't think the Chiefs are going to make it this year.
I love watching Josh Allen.
Yeah.
But I love Patrick Mahomes even more. Thank you, my friend, as always. We appreciate it. We'll do this next Tuesday.
Look forward to it.
Thank you.
Thanks.
That is our man in the NFL. That is Jeff Moore. We take a break, and we'll go. Things are happening in Nashville, and Mike Keith, I guarantee you, is all over it. We talk with the voice of the Titans in just a minute.
Locally owned and operated for over 40 years, Automatic Gates Construction tailors custom gate solutions for all your residential, commercial, and industrial needs, including repairs, maintenance, and installation. Automatic Gates Construction specializes in designing and installing automatic gates and fencing that seamlessly blends security, functionality, and aesthetic appeal. Elevate the safety and efficiency of your property with a premium gate solution. Automatic Gates Construction at myautomaticgates.com.
I think people forget there's a Central Barbecue location in South Haven.
And that's on us.
Well, you.
What does that mean?
Well, you're the spokesperson for Central Barbecue. It's your responsibility to remind people there's a Central Barbecue in South Haven.
It's very convenient that I'm the spokesperson when there's responsibility to be taken.
Just mention the Central Barbecue location in South Haven.
I got a lot to remember. There's the location on Butler downtown. There's a location on Summer, on Poplar.
And Getwell Road in South Haven. How hard is that?
I've heard you call yourself a spokesperson for Central Barbecue.
It was just to pick up chicks.
High-energy, full-body workout that utilizes the same equipment and technology employed by Floyd Mayweather to achieve his impressive 50-0 record. The workout features 4 types of heavy bags, treadmills, Fitness, located at 2257 North Germantown Parkway in Cordova. Train like a champ. Mayweather Boxing and Fitness. 901-673-1267.
I got to pass along condolences, prayers, sympathies with the Alan Tynes family. I worked for well over a decade with Alan Tynes years ago at WREC. Had one of the great voices ever. Boy, there were some great voices when you think about Cook, Powell, all those guys. But Alan Tynes, he was the guy that did the commercials. He was an award-winning commercial producer, writer, and then, of course, deliverer with this incredible voice that I think anybody would have killed for. Alan Tynes moved to be with kids and grandkids to Seattle several years ago and passed away, I think, a bit unexpectedly in his late 70s. What a treasure he was to work with. I will miss him. I have missed him, but to the Tynes family, our condolences for sure. In the meantime, let's head down 40. Let's get to Nashville. And Mike Keith, who's probably been pretty busy today, busy day there. The word came out from the ownership that Brian Callahan, the head coach, only 1 year, is staying. He's in, but the general manager, Rand Carthen, has been let go. Mike, I don't want to get you in any kind of trouble or anything like that. Whatever you can say about that move, I'd appreciate your sentiments. Good morning.
Good morning. Amy Adams-Strunk put out a statement today making it clear she was just concerned about overall direction going forward. We obviously have a pivotal off-season coming up with over $60 million in cap room, the number one pick in the draft. And if you're an owner and you're not confident in the people who are making those sorts of decisions, oftentimes you change management. And I think, simply put, that's what she chose to do today.
So obviously they're going to bring somebody in to make this decision. And so anything that you might have heard around the halls may not actually be accurate now. But what direction? You've got the number one pick. What do you think is the biggest need? Would it be a quarterback? There are a couple of quarterbacks in Shadur Sanders and in Cam Ward. I kind of like Ward that usually you would take with the number one pick. I don't know if this is the greatest quarterback class, though, in history. Is there another need that really is glaring that might have a quality player there? What direction do you think this group would take with that number one pick?
Difficult to say, because the overarching point that you make is spot on. This team's got to get quarterback fixed in a hurry. This organization is not going forward in a positive manner in any way, shape, or form until they get the quarterback situation straightened out. Now, is that a veteran? Is that somebody that you can sign in free agency, you can trade for? Is it somebody in the draft as the evaluation process has begun? All of those things will have to factor in. And again, $60+ million in cap room, the number one pick. You have the ability to do various things. There is no greater need for this organization than quarterback at this point, and yet it doesn't automatically mean the quarterback will come from the draft. I think you could do a lot of different things. It would not surprise me if Will Levis is back on this roster at all. He's under contract for 2 years because he was a second-round pick. He does not have a high cost. So he could be still in the mix in your quarterback room. Could see a scenario where he would be a backup to a veteran. He would cost next year against the cap about what the backup Mason Rudolph cost this year. I could see you signing one or trading for one and drafting one to go with Levis as your quarterback room. So, I think all options are on the table, and that's the best news for the Tennessee Titans at this moment in time.
You also will get your head coach back. I think personally that's the fair thing. I don't know that you can tell after 1 year if a guy who's been a great coordinator can be a great head coach. In New England, they thought differently. The Kraft family thought Gerard Mayo was not the answer long term. He only got 1 year. I don't necessarily think that is enough time to make a true judgment.
Right.
I had a different guy, Jeff Moore, who's my NFL guy for 30 years in here, played in the NFL, was a receiver for your Tennessee Volunteers years ago. He thinks you can tell right away whether a guy is just a great coordinator and not head coach material. Your sense, can you really tell in 1 year?
Well, I think what you can do, and where I will agree with Jeff, is I think you can tell if somebody doesn't have it. Mm-hmm. And that ends up being for how meetings are constructed, how the team is run, how that person is operating as the head coach, as the head of that organization. The difficult thing that Gerard Mayo had, that I was always terrified about for him, is he followed an administration that was immensely successful. The most successful group in the salary cap era of the NFL, in the modern era of the NFL since the merger. And somebody who had things in place, everything in place for over 20 years. It was going to take a big figure to be the head coach that followed Bill Belichick.
Yeah, I don't think you ever want to follow a legend personally.
You don't, but being 38 years old and a first-time head coach, I mean, that's hard. That's why I think Mike Vrabel's going there, because Mike Vrabel is a little older, and he's been head coach for 6 years. And so he gets that. He's also a very strong personality. In our case, Brian Callahan showed all the capabilities of running the organization. For the losing that we had, and we had a bunch, he never lost this team. He never lost the locker room. He never had a bunch of fights at practice. Nobody ever said, gosh, these guys are lazy or overweight or things that would show up in circumstances in a normal situation, which, by the way, the New England situation was not a normal situation. But in a normal situation, a guy who shows that he can't be a head coach can't run the operation. And Brian showed that he can run the operation just fine. The players respond to him. The coaches respond to him. All of those things worked. I don't want to say flawlessly, because in your first year of any job, you're going to have bumps. But he never lost any part of that. He certainly appeared to everybody who worked with him on a daily basis like a head coach. Now, he's going to have some better results, but he did not show that the job was too big for him. And that's why he gets a second year.
I'm glad you brought up Mike Vrabel. I think Robert Kraft jumped with this move because he didn't want to lose Mike Vrabel. You know Mike Vrabel very well. You did TV and radio with him. Do you think he's going to work in New England?
Yes. Ask me if I think he would work in Chicago.
Would he work in Chicago? Because I'm going there next.
Yes. Ask me if he'd work with the Jets.
Can anybody work with the Jets?
Yes, Mike Vrabel.
Mike Vrabel. So you think highly of Mike Vrabel? Mike
Vrabel totally gets the whole thing. And if you read the amazing article in The Athletic about what he's done, they followed him for 5 months leading up to this process. And it is so I don't know that I've ever read an article that is more spot on about who a human being really is and what makes him tick than that article. I've had friends who've said, well, I was kind of on the fence on Vrabel, but after reading this, he's kind of the real deal. And, I mean, that's Mike.
I will absolutely read that. I don't read enough of my Athletic subscription, so I will do that as soon as.
Well, you need about a half hour.
Okay, it's a long one, huh?
Yeah.
I'm glad you brought up the Bears because I'm very scared here. I'm hoping we're going to talk to Ben Johnson if it wasn't Mike Vrabel, and now they've asked the Cowboys permission to talk with Mike McCarthy. It seems to me that if you're talking with Mike McCarthy, you put him in a position where you better take him because he's gone from Dallas if he talks to you. What's going to happen there?
If they let him. Yeah, if they let him.
If they let him. But if they don't let him, then Jerry Jones is saying, okay, he's our guy for another year, which I don't think will be popular in Dallas.
He's a good football coach. He would be an excellent choice in Chicago, too. I mean, Mike doesn't have the big, rosy personality and all this stuff, and he kind of has that grim look on his face all the time. And but what a really, really good football coach, and the players love him. But the other thing too, and this is what the Bears don't need right now, is they don't need to be trying somebody else out. They need a head coach. And I think a lot of these owners are finally getting the whole flavor of the month thing. This guy was a hot offensive coordinator, and this guy was a hot defensive coordinator, and what about, and then people make fun of the retreads at times. But guys who have done it, as Coach Mack, my broadcast partner, says, guys who have water in their bucket, it makes such a difference because they don't have the learning curve. The Chicago Bears don't need a coach with a learning curve. They're not far away from being a good football team, and they need to be in that division in a hurry.
Boy, they do.
So, I mean, Mike McCarthy, Mike Vrabel, those kind of guys, I mean, even when Pete Carroll's name was brought up, that made total sense to me because that's the type of guy the Bears need.
Well, he's good with quarterbacks. I've seen that over the years.
Oh, yeah.
Since you mentioned older guys established, the Jets and Rex Ryan, who's really basically come out and said, I'm the guy for the job.
Yeah.
You're not going to get a better guy than me. And the stuff with Aaron Rodgers, the country club stuff's over.
Yeah. I mean, Rex is a good coach, and he is a program-specific coach, too. He can handle all that New York stuff. He can handle the tabloids. He can handle the back page of the newspaper. He can handle social media. Rex is big, and I don't mean physically, but I'm saying he's a big personality.
Yeah.
And when you're in New York, you need that. He's a great defensive coach, and I think he showed it different times. He had some good offensive coaches with him. The players love him. They love playing for him. And that part of it is there. Now, he's been out of the game a while, and that kind of factors in. But can I see him going back and it being a reboot for both the Jets and Rex Ryan? Sure I can. Sure I can. Because, again, specific coach, specific system, and in New York City, you've got to be able to handle it. And he can handle it.
All right, last thing. Two, I think, pretty historic marks made this past weekend. Aaron Rodgers threw his 500th touchdown pass. Only 5 guys have ever done that before in the league. Or only 4 guys. He becomes the 5th. Or Mike Evans, who on the last catch of the game for the Buccaneers who make the playoffs, catches a pass that puts him over 1,000 receiving yards for his 11th straight year. Keeping in mind that, I mean, I'm not saying longevity of receivers are like running backs that average 2 to 3 years, but 11 years of that kind of greatness, pretty impressive stuff. Which one, to you, is a bigger achievement?
It's the Mike Evans thing because the receiver position has so many more injuries. And the quarterback position just, I mean, it doesn't. And Rodgers has largely been healthy throughout his career. Evans has had to fight things at different times, not because he's injury prone, but because he's a pro football player who blocks people and gets tackled and jumps and runs. I mean, you know, the amount of running that a wide receiver does in a game, you know, you can, I mean, how many times do we see people who are just jogging along and they pop a hamstring or they pop an Achilles or, I mean, anything can happen. And Mike Evans has been there time and time and time again. And at his age, at this point, and he's not really that old. I think he's finally just 31.
That's incredible.
It is incredible. But Mike Evans has just been so good for so long. And to be one of the top guys, to be one of the top 10 guys for a decade, there are very few of those guys.
No
Pretty
doubt.
special.
No doubt. Always special chatting with you. Thank you, my friend. We'll do this again next Tuesday.
I look forward to it. Thanks.
That is our man, Mike Keith, the voice of the Tennessee Titans. That'll do it for us today. Johnny Radio comes your way next. I promise, tomorrow it's a Wednesday. I've missed my Wednesdays, guys. Dennis Philippi, Joe Dank, Jason Munns. That all comes your way tomorrow. Have a great day, everybody.